let's do it. So thank you to everyone who is joining the webinar today, which is brought to you as usual by the RTOERO Foundation. My name is Mike Prentice. I am the Executive Director of the Foundation. The mission of the RTOERO Foundation is to invest in programs, research, and training to support healthy, active aging for all Canadians. Our activities aim to improve seniors' healthcare, end social isolation, and combat ageism. And our vision at the RTOERO Foundation, we envision a society in which all seniors live with dignity and respect. So we are very excited to have two presenters today who you're seeing on your screen. Joanne Murphy is chair of the RTOERO Foundation's Board of Directors, and Tara Seney is manager at the Alzheimer Society of Chatham-Kent. And I will let Joanne and Tara do some more detailed introductions for themselves in a minute. Today's webinar, titled Initiating a Dialogue on Dementia and Elder Abuse, is the first in the Foundation's 2022 series. And what an important subject to launch this year's webinar series. So I'm just going to turn it over to Joanne Murphy. Joanne, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
We acknowledge, recognize, and honor the ancestral traditional territories on which we live and work, and the contributions of all Indigenous peoples to our communities and our nation. Nous reconnaissons et honorons les territoires traditionnels ancestraux sur lesquels nous vivons et travaillons, ainsi que la contribution de tous les peuples autochtones à nos communautés et à notre nation. Merci, thank you, miigwech. At this time, I would like to introduce to you the project leader for this particular project, who comes to us from NICE, the National Initiative for Care of the Elderly. Sharon Tan has worked on the project for over a year with a committee and has discovered many interesting and helpful ideas for all of us. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Sharon to talk a bit more about the project and also about some of the.
Thank you so much, Joanne. I think your mic did cut out a little bit at the end, but I think I got most people got the gist of what you were saying. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. This is a very important topic, and we're glad that this is the first webinar to kick off the year. So my name is Sharon. I am a research officer from NICE, and as Joanne has mentioned, leading the project as well as supporting our facilitators throughout the course of the project. I just have a couple housekeeping tasks about the project. So first of all, I do want to ask, we want to remind everyone that this workshop isn't meant to provide any legal advice or advice on very personal individual situations. At any point, if you do need to step away, you're welcome to do so. And if you do feel uncomfortable at any time of the webinar, you can also message me in the chat or in the Q&A section as well. I do also want to mention that this project is funded by the Government of Canada's New Horizons for Seniors program, and we do have a number of partners that are listed on the slide that you are seeing now. And the last thing I do want to mention is that we have sent out a pre-workshop survey link, and you're welcome to complete that if you like. It'll really help us understand the baseline knowledge of everyone joining us here today. And after this workshop, we'll also be sending out a post-workshop survey that you're also welcome to complete as well. But this is not mandatory, and it's obviously optional for you to take part. I will pass this back over to Joanne and Tara to lead the way.
Thanks very much, Sharon. Yes, my microphone did cut out. As Mike mentioned, my name is Joanne Murphy. I'm chair of the RTOERO Foundation Board of Directors. As well, I have been on the advisory committee for this particular project through NICE and a previous one. I've had my eyes open to so many things, and I'm quite certain that you're going to find that today too. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my co-facilitator, Tara.
Thanks, Joanne. Yes, so my name's Tara Seney, and I'm the Public Education Manager at the Alzheimer Society in Chatham-Kent. And I'm very pleased to be co-facilitating today and collaborating with NICE. So I appreciate the invitation. And we'll get started. So welcome to the workshop on initiating a dialogue on dementia and elder abuse. So today we're going to be sharing some information with you that will hopefully raise your awareness and knowledge about elder abuse and neglect. So here's our agenda for today. So we'll be looking at defining elder abuse and neglect in the context of dementia, types of abuse and neglect, and we'll be looking at signs and what that might look like, resources, safety planning and supports. And we're going to be ending the session with some case studies just before we do a participatory survey. And just note, as stated before, the goal of this workshop is to raise awareness and educate. It is not aimed to provide any legal advice. So before we begin, I'd like to go over a couple of terms. So we want to provide some context about the term elder. In some cultures, elders refers to an individual with certain roles, responsibilities, and knowledge. Indigenous communities often refer to individuals who hold cultural knowledge and are respected by the community as an elder. And today we'll be using the terms older adults, older person, seniors, and elders interchangeably. It is important to note that elder abuse can happen to both seniors and elders. So in this presentation, the terms caregivers, care partners, and carers refers to someone who is providing care. However, some people may choose to refer to themselves as care partners instead to show the relationship is a two-way street, that it's agreed upon, mutually beneficial, and acknowledges the agency and decision-making ability of both parties. So the rationale for this workshop is based on the national prevalence study of the mistreatment of older adults in Canada that was conducted by NICE. It was found that seniors would go to their friends about their abuse. NICE is hoping to gather and gain a better understanding out of today's workshop whether seniors can support other seniors who are experiencing abuse or neglect, and whether these workshops can change the way that we talk about elder abuse. Based on statistics from Canada and Ontario, the population is aging. It is also expected that the number of older adults living with dementia will also rise. By 2036, the number of seniors over 65 in Canada is expected to double. It is estimated that about 24% of the population will be over 65. So this was taken from Statistics Canada in 2018. So it's important that we take action early on to support the wellness of seniors and their families, and this includes preventing elder abuse.
When we are referring to elder abuse and neglect, we are referring to actions or inactions towards older adults. According to the World Health Organization, elder abuse is an act or lack of appropriate action that causes harm or distress to an older person. This is often within a relationship where there's an imbalance of power and expectation of trust. This abuse could happen by a spouse or partner, a caregiver, a family member, or even someone that is unknown to them. Neglect is also a form of mistreatment where the basic necessities of care are not provided, such as food, medication, or basic hygiene. As mentioned earlier, there can be imbalance in power in cases of elder abuse. Speaking broadly, elder abuse would be a situation where an older person has limited power and control over their own rights and freedoms. The older person is unable to freely make choices because they may be afraid of being humiliated, hurt, left alone, or of the relationship ending. The abuser can be a stranger, but very often it is a family member, a caregiver, a health professional, just to name a few. When thinking about elder abuse in the context of seniors living with dementia, it's important to have an understanding of dementia.
So dementia in itself is an umbrella term for a condition or a combination of conditions, including loss of memory and other thinking abilities that interfere with daily life. Dementia can be reversible, so there can be a cure, or irreversible, where there is no cure. The most common types of irreversible dementia is Alzheimer's disease, which may be a term that most people are familiar with. Depending on which stage of dementia a person is at, they will have different levels of cognitive impairment. This includes memory and thinking processes. In later stages, people may require more support from caregivers or carers with their daily activities. There are statistics that show a link between cases of abuse and people living with dementia. At a global scale, as many as 2 out of 3 people living with dementia have been abused. In Canada, 4 to 10% of older adults experience abuse, and 5.4% to 11.9% of older adults with dementia experience abuse. In most cases, are not reported. Cognitive and physical impairments increase the risk of experiencing abuse and neglect among people living with dementia. Some examples include reduced motor abilities and or communication abilities, reduced decision abilities and abilities to address the abusive situation, reduced social networks, and increased need for supports from caregivers, health professionals, family members, and others.
In this part of the presentation, we will talk about what to look out for to spot abuse and neglect. There will be additional resources and information in the take-home package. Here is a list of the main types of abuse which will be discussed, along with some examples and what you should look out for. I want to note that types of abuse and the examples we provide will not be an exhaustive list. The first is physical abuse, which may be the one most of us are familiar with. It's any action that causes a physical injury or discomfort. For instance, slapping or hitting, biting, choking, and rough handling. You see on your screen the signs that you might observe. Psychological abuse involves behaviors that cause emotional distress, fear, or decreased confidence or dignity. Some examples of psychological abuse include threats or insults, speaking on or acting on behalf of an older adult's behalf, restricting interaction with family and friends, and some of the signs, anxiety, depression, cowering, fear of the caregiver, and fear of talking openly. Sexual abuse refers to direct or indirect involvement in sexual activity or activities that are sexual in nature and are without consent. This can include unwanted sexual intercourse, unwanted sexual comments, unwanted kissing, touching, fondling, harassing sexual comments, and sex trafficking of the older person. This could also include not respecting the older adult's privacy and space. To briefly explain, sex trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which individuals perform commercial sex through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. If this has happened, you might notice bruising, bleeding, or pain near genitals, the anus, or inner thigh, STDs, difficulty walking or sitting, behavioral changes, including anxiety, anger, irritation, or hostility, refusing care or increased distress during dressing, bathing, or perineal care. This could lead to post-traumatic stress disorder.
Financial abuse is also another common form of elder abuse. This involves actions or inactions that lead to financial loss in the form of money or property in the older adult's life. Examples of financial abuse include scams, forgery, misuse of the older adult's power of attorney, property, or money, and forcing an older adult to sign over property or to change their will. You should look out for unpaid bills, missing items or mail, forged signatures, and whether their standard of living matches their income level. For example, they may be living in below average conditions despite having a relatively high income. Spiritual or religious abuse refers to restrictions that prevent an older adult from engaging with their spirituality and or their religion. Older adults may be restricted from going to events or activities, or someone may use the older adult's beliefs to exploit them or even attack their beliefs. You may see the older adult suddenly missing important spiritual or religious events. It be something out of the ordinary or unusual. The older adult may even share with you that they are being ridiculed or restricted for their beliefs. Medication abuse is the misuse of medication that causes harm to the senior, usually classified as a form of physical abuse. This may be more frequent among seniors living with dementia because they might forget that they have already taken medication, or they're unaware that they haven't taken medication. However, it's important to mention that medication abuse can also occur when someone who manages the senior's medication withholds the medication and sells or uses them, or someone over-medicates the senior to make them more compliant. When someone relies on someone else to monitor their medication use, this can lead to over or under medication. Seniors might appear drowsy and disorientated. They may experience frequent falls, have sudden fluctuations in emotions, and may be missing medication. Now, neglect refers to inactions. It involves not providing a senior with assistance to support their daily living, such as providing food, medicine, or assisting with basic hygiene. To spot neglect, you might notice poor hygiene, like dirty clothes or ripped clothing, lack of bathing, bad body odor, unkept hair, or poor oral hygiene. You might also see someone being socially isolated, for example, being kept in their bedroom. They may not have regular medical appointments, or they could be prevented from seeing others. And if they do see others, they might not have the necessary medical or physical aids, such as their glasses or their hearing aids. There's also something called unintentional neglect. So unintentional neglect isn't known as a specific type of abuse, but in the context of dementia, it is important to learn about it because it brings attention to the experiences of carers. Certain actions or inactions on the part of the carer may be intended to work around the effects of dementia or related to caregiving stress. So for example, this might include locking doors to prevent the person living with dementia from leaving the home, but do not realize that this is a safety and fire hazard for the older adult and could be considered to be forcible confinement, or talking in a very loud voice so that the person can hear them due to an impairment, which may seem rude. Often, this is due to lack of knowledge, resources, and supports for the carer. It's important to point out that stress levels for dementia care partners are 5 times greater than caring for someone with other conditions, and this can translate into elder abuse or neglect. If you feel that as a caregiver, you may have experienced some of these scenarios I just described, or if you have witnessed a caregiver struggling, there are support services that can help and provide respite. They can provide care strategies and additional resources. And we're going to share with some of those resources at the end of this presentation. And we hope that those will be helpful in ensuring that no one needs to resort to or experience abuse.
Each person's experience is different. Many individual and social factors, such as family relations, culture, language, childhood, environment, historical context, and so forth, can influence your situation. We want to bring to your attention that some communities may have unique experiences of elder abuse and neglect. For instance, in the LGBTQI2S communities, Some older adults may go back in the closet by hiding photos or not informing their social worker or doctor about their partner. Some people may feel that they have to go back in the closet while receiving care. They are also less likely to have children who can support and visit them in times of need. In Indigenous communities, some cases of abuse may be the result of the legacy of the residential schools and colonization. Due to poor historical experience, older Indigenous adults and their families might feel less trusting of authorities and less likely to engage with law enforcement. In newcomer and immigrant communities, the older people who are newcomers can sometimes encounter language barriers, so they can't seek help. They may not know about existing services or what constitute abuse, a concept that does not always translate, and or may feel obligated to endure because of their immigration status or need for family sponsorship. When appropriate, ask the senior questions about the situations to gain a better understanding of the entire situation and its context. Remember, there isn't a one-size-fits-all experience or solution. Education about abuse is important for protecting each other, but there are solutions we can take. We all have a role to play in learning about the warning signs to identify abuse and supporting someone who may be at risk. There are 3 actions you can take to prevent abuse. We call it the SNCIT conversation. See it, name it, check it. This is taken from the It's Not Right Neighbors, Friends, and Families Toolkit from the Center for Research and Education on Violence Against Women and Children at the University of Western. When we say see it, it means learning and being able to spot the signs of abuse. When we say name it, it means speaking to the senior about it. And when we say check it, it means checking in with experts and checking if the senior's safety is threatened. If you are concerned about someone being abused or neglected, you can seek information through a senior support line or a local elder abuse prevention organization. It is important that you talk to the older person first. Ask them how they're doing and how they're feeling. Let them speak. If and when they are ready to talk about what they are experiencing, listen to them and reassure them that it is not their fault. Always consult with them before taking the next step. In cases where the older adult experiencing abuse has limited ability to respond or have a meaningful conversation, you can speak to other family members not directly involved in the situation, or a neighbor, or call police for a wellness and well-being check. You may also choose to consult with victim services, and they can visit the older adult's home, of course, depending on where they reside. You can also ask the older adult if they're connected with any community or social service, which will enable quicker follow-up if the older adult is ever in a dangerous situation. Alternatively, you can reach out to an agency who they are receiving services from to express your concerns. Although agencies can't tell you personal information, they can receive information. Before leaving today's event, we hope that you will take away some of the key information from today's workshop. We will be sharing a few resources later in this presentation. You will also receive a digital info package after the workshop. We will now talk about some additional steps for safety planning and support. Elder abuse and neglect are not a result of a senior's own actions. Often, people with dementia may present behavior changes. These changes are not intentional, but can be very difficult for the caregiver. Mistreatment can be a result of a caregiver's stress and family relations, leading to learned violence. There are resources to support caregivers to gain knowledge and skills to understand the behavior changes. We will share a list of these resources later on in the workshop. Ageism refers to how we think, how we feel, and how we act towards people on the basis of their age. It is the most accepted forms of discrimination in our society. Ageism is also the root cause of elder abuse. A person with abusive behaviors may also have personal issues or situations that may be related to abusive actions, such as unaddressed substance use and or mental illness and or poor social conditions, including unemployment, homelessness, and or involvement with the criminal justice system.
If you are a senior experiencing abuse or neglect, it's important to have someone you trust or an expert in the field to talk to. They may be outside of your family or a friend circle. In general, it should be someone who you can talk to without any restrictions or fear. In addition, many professionals working in shelters, mental health and victim services can provide support and help you develop a safety plan. When abuse escalates, some seniors, including seniors living with dementia, may choose to leave. And if they do, they should consider a safety plan. So it's important to talk regularly to people they trust about their plan. Ideally, planning should start early on to avoid any challenges due to cognitive impairments or as their dementia progresses. Over time, they should also revisit and update their plan to ensure their safety if their circumstances change. They may also want to give copies of documents such as power of attorney, their will, banking documents, immigration and citizenship papers, health cards, etc., whether or on paper or in a digital file to people that they trust. And finally, seniors might want to prepare an overnight bag with emergency contacts, money, maybe bus tokens or pass, a phone, medicines, and other medical physical aids. This can be quickly picked up when the senior actually decides to leave. Elder abuse not only impacts individuals who experience it, but also the broader community. Even if you're not directly involved in the situation, you can still take action in preventing it from happening. So listen attentively and be patient with the seniors. Instead of asking open-ended questions, perhaps give choices like, are you going to place B or are you going to place A? Create a supportive environment to aid with memory, like using visual cues or labeling items can be quite helpful, especially if someone's dementia is progressing. Regular check-ins may also be valuable to continue developing that trust, but also an opportunity to revisit their safety plan. And lastly, if there is potential for danger, reporting the issue may be your next option. You should not make a decision to report or do anything drastic without consulting the older adult first. They need to be involved in the decision-making process and keep control over their decision-making and autonomy over their life as much as possible. Every step of the way, speak with the person and empower them to make decisions that feel right to them. One of the first steps should be to talk to the senior first and to empower them to have control and to seek support themselves. As mentioned earlier, people who are engaging in abuse, sometimes caregivers, may have personal issues or circumstances, including mental illnesses, that result in actions that harm an older adult. I also noted it's sometimes unintentional. To assist with roles and responsibilities of caregiving, there are supports to help provide time and self-care for caregivers to alleviate some of that stress and anxiety. You can also call hotlines such as the Canadian Hospice Palliative Care Association, Caregiving Matters, and the Ontario Caregiving Association. Sometimes they can be addressed through a means like having housekeeping to help clean the senior's home, or signing up for meal preparation programs and going to support groups. They may also seek out professional mental health and social supports to address mental health concerns. Some other local supports in Ontario include the Senior Safety Line, 211 Ontario, the Advocacy Center for the Elderly, the Alzheimer Society of Ontario, Assaulted Women's Helpline, FemAid, and local shelters and community services. Some other broader supports include the Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario, the Canadian Network for Prevention of Elder Abuse, and the Alzheimer Society of Chatham-Kent. So I'm now going to pass the mic over to Joanne, who's going to look at some case studies with you.
Here's the first case study, and we are trying to apply some of the knowledge we've gained in the last little while. I'm not as independent as I used to be since I was diagnosed with dementia. I need help with certain tasks. My daughter helps me, but I'm ashamed to admit that sometimes she shakes and even hits me. What is going on in this case study?
We have
Physical?
we have a couple people saying physical abuse, Joanne.
Quite a few, actually.
Mhm.
Physical and emotional. What made you think it was physical? What action did cause you to think it was physical? Hits her.
Hits her.
Okay. If you were the senior in this situation, what would be the best next step to prevent further abuse?
Someone said get home care, talk to a friend.
Phone a hotline? All really good suggestions. If you were the friend that was contacted or the neighbor, what would you do?
Report to non-family member, talk to a trusted person.
I'm going to ask you one more question about this case. Why do you think the daughter was hitting her?
Stress, frustration.
All good answers. Okay, thank you. Let's go on to the next case study. Thank you, everyone, for all your answers. Super. My neighbor is a widower who brings my groceries because I'm unable to remember the routes to the store. Since my husband died, he has started hugging and touching me, even though I ask him not to. He calls it his delivery fee. What kind of abuse do you see here? Tara, I'm going to let you do the answers.
Okay, so we have quite a few people saying sexual abuse.
What made
Sexual,
you? Okay, sorry.
oh, sorry, sexual and emotional abuse.
What made you think it was sexual or emotional abuse?
Unwanted attention, physical attention.
Touching.
Use of grocery service direct from, use a grocery service direct from the grocery store. Psychological touching, unwanted touching.
If you were the friend or the neighbor that this person spoke to, what would you do?
Report it.
Offer my services, or talk to a reliable relative. All great answers. Now, I know someone said order direct from the store, but what if you live in an area that doesn't have delivery service? What else could you do about your groceries? Offer to help.
Taxi. Someone else to help. Tell relatives.
Great
Ask a friend or
answer.
neighbor.
Okay, let's look at another one. I have Alzheimer's, and my daughter, who's a mother of 4 children, is caring for me. I notice that she sometimes gives me extra medication, which makes me drowsy and less demanding. What's going on in this case study?
Medication abuse.
Over medication. What made you think that it was medication abuse or over medication?
Feels drowsy afterwards.
If you were the senior in this situation, what would be the next best step to prevent more over medication?
One person suggested asking the pharmacy for a blister pack. Tell doctor, refuse the medication. Talk to family members.
Take back control of your medication.
Mhm.
All great answers. I thank everyone for staying till the end of our workshop. And I really hope that you've learned something new today and something that you can apply to your daily life. I'd like now to pass this back to Sharon for some closing remarks. Sharon?
Thank you so much, Joanne and Tara. That was wonderful. And I'm really happy with all the engagement we were getting in the Q&A as well as in the chat. I do see that Deanna has mentioned that right now we're going to open the floor up for some additional Q&As. And if you do have any questions or answers, you can just click that little icon on the bottom right of your at the bottom of the screen, and you can put a chat there. I do want to let everyone know about the post-workshop survey that we were just discussing earlier. So Deanna will be sending out an email for that, and you can respond to that whenever you like. But I do want to thank everyone again for staying till the end, as well as Joanne and Tara, Deanna and Mike for setting this up. I think it was a really great time. But yeah, we'll leave the floor open for some questions, if any. And right now, we don't seem like we have any.
I see one that I think is an important one, and that is the one, can we always trust what the elder person is reporting? And I don't think that we always can. I would want to see if I could, this is my personal feeling, see if I could find some signs of it, because if a person is starting to lose some mental capacity, it's possible that they've seen something on TV or they've heard somebody talking about this type of situation and it wasn't them at all. So I think that there are times when you have to really be careful. That's my personal opinion.
And then Tara, I'm wondering if you want to add into that too, because I think during this presentation, we're mentioning that if anyone does need to do any safety planning, it's recommended to do that as early as possible, so you can have time to revise and to review that over time before someone's dementia does worsen. Nope, you're on mute. All good.
No, sorry about that. So when it comes to individuals maybe reporting something that they may not, and it may not be true, oftentimes when people are living with a dementia, what that is their reality. They often do believe that maybe somebody's over medicating or doing something if it's not well explained to them. So oftentimes what we need to do is get professional help in that situation, and really closely monitor what's going on, whether or not that's with blister packs or having a PSW coming into the home or things like that. Because we oftentimes need to validate their concerns, even though it may not be the real reality. But oftentimes we can't really tell them what their reality is wrong, because it really is their reality in their perspective. So not challenging them in that belief, but putting in support for them is probably the best idea.
I see a question here that perhaps Sharon will have to answer. We have a question about using some of this material for local district newsletters. What would be your feeling about that, Sharon?
So I guess we do have an infographic that's going to, well, it is in the process of being translated into different languages as well. And it's currently been translated into Arabic as well as into Spanish and English, of course. And we're also having a French version that's coming out later this month. So we're happy to share that with everyone. And that can be found on our website in the future as well. But I think the purpose of these workshops too, that we did want something that people can take with them in a very simple format, which is simply a 2-pager. So you can definitely get in touch with me afterwards about that. So I'll put my email in the chat box if people want to send any, or I guess have any other additional requests or comments for me, in addition to using any materials.
A question about a blister pack, and I can understand why that question might be asked, because unless you've had some dealings where you needed blister packs, you would know what we're talking about. But a blister pack is, Sharon would like to answer this live, so why don't I give it over to Sharon?
Oh no, that was just for you. I was just clicking the answer live for you.
Okay. A blister pack is when the pharmacist prepares your medications in blisters, one for each day of the week that you're supposed to take it. It makes it much easier for someone who has problems keeping track of their pills, and also for a caregiver who can keep track of whether or not the person is actually taking their pills. They are handy. But I should tell you what happens if the person stops taking the medication for one reason or another. Somebody has to take all of those pills out of the blister pack before the druggist will accept them. The druggist won't accept the blister pack back. So that can be kind of a pain for whoever is responsible.
I see a question from Paul here. He's saying, dealing with dementia as a caregiver can be very frustrating. What positive suggestions can you give to lower the frustration level of the care partner? So my suggestion would be to call your local Alzheimer Society, where they often have many different supports and services. They don't act as a silo. They will also refer you to other agencies for support and services. So some of those may include a day program for the person that you're supporting, and that also provides respite to the care partner. Joining educational programs that the Alzheimer Society provides, such as the First Link Learning Series, which can give you information on the supports and services that are out there, but also on how to best utilize strategies to support the person. And it helps you identify the challenges and meet the needs of those challenges. There's also respite programs from the Alzheimer Society, but also from other community agencies that can be helpful as well. There's support groups at the Alzheimer Society, but again, there's support groups in other areas as well. And really utilizing the system navigators there can also be helpful. And making sure, and I think people don't hear this enough, but making sure that there's that self-care as well, because oftentimes if care partners are not taking care of themselves, it can't really be expected for them to be able to care for others. So hopefully, Paul, that helped in answering that question. So Carl's asking, are people more vulnerable if living at home alone with less people coming in for oversight? Absolutely, people are more vulnerable. And there are agencies out there that can help, whether that be, so for example, Meals on Wheels. That's not only is somebody dropping off a meal, but it's a check in on somebody. Home cares can also come in and check. I know Via Wen does calls to check in. Depending on your local area, a lot of EMS places will also do some check-ins. So, really advocating for individuals that we see as being vulnerable and putting those support systems in place is a great idea.
The question about not being sure what to do if you hear that a person is being abused, or the person tells you that they're being abused. I think the first thing you have to do is talk with them and find out what the abuse is. And if you can possibly get them to go someplace with you, even just for a walk, so they don't feel intimidated. Kara, maybe you can add more to that.
So I don't have that question right in front of me. I've been scrolling down in some of the questions. Was the question asking how to get somebody support?
Well, to find out if the abuse is real, and I think you did answer that partly before when you said if the person believes it's real in their mind, but what if you're trying to find out if it's more than that? The question was, what do I do when first hearing about or seeing the abuse?
Having that conversation, I think, is the first step. And, you know, maybe making sure that you have that conversation in a safe environment so that person feels that they can speak openly.
Sharon, I noticed quite a few people are asking about the phone numbers. They will be given out at the end.
Yes, yes. And yeah, we do have some phone numbers that I'll be giving out at the end with an infographic, but I think if there are some that I see in the chat, I will just provide them since if they're top of mind. But yeah, I think this is great. We do have some questions. Yeah, some really great questions that just keep coming in. And I guess we have about 10 minutes left. I'm wondering, Joanne and Tara, would you like to continue responding to some of the questions? And I think some people have also put some questions in the chat as well.
Okay, I see one here. This is from Jennifer. She says that her sister's doctor wrote the Ministry of Transportation and had her license suspended just as a result of a cognitive test. So my sister has not been diagnosed with dementia, but is showing memory loss. What can be done? So what really needs to be done is having that discussion with the physician and asking for a specified diagnosis. Not everybody is always diagnosed with a certain type of dementia or an irreversible dementia. Sometimes there's just a diagnosis of dementia. So asking for that specific diagnosis can be helpful as well.
Maybe a question has to do with an over-medication of a person in a nursing home, a long-term care home. Is there anything you can do about it?
My suggestion for that is to speak to the executive director of that long-term care home and the care team to have a look at, have a medication review.
I think some of these questions I do see that are talking about elder abuse that happens within the long-term care home or within institutions. I will flag that they are a little bit of this out of the scope of today's workshop, but I will redirect you to the webinars hosted by the Elder Abuse Prevention of Ontario. They do often host a number of workshops specific to elder abuse within community and sometimes within long-term care as well. I think that will provide a better clarification, but I will also mention that when it comes to situations involving long-term care, this also involves the colleges of different colleges involving social workers as well as personal support workers. So the responsibilities of those individuals also are different. I still can't find the question, specific question, but I did notice that there are some regarding institutions, and I did want to raise that to everyone's attention that we do see it. I think we just had to find time to answer it too.
A question about the recording, will it be available afterwards? Mike, I don't know if you're still around. All of our webinars are posted online within certain time. I'm not sure if it's immediately. Immediately.
Yeah, that's right, Joanne. This recording of this webinar will be available on the Foundation site where our webinars are archived. It takes a little bit of time because we transcribe it and caption it so that it's available to experience in both English and French. We have French and English captions. So it takes a little while for that to happen, but not too long. Within a month or so, it should be up on the site. So
if you are tuning in from a different province, I will say that one of our partners is the Canadian Network for Elder Abuse Prevention of Elder Abuse, and they have a lovely website. So I'm going to put this into the chat where it filters by the province or territory that you're in. So they have a really wonderful list. So if you are tuning in from outside of Ontario, you can refer to this list and navigate through there. And if you do have any difficulties navigating the website, you can you're welcome to contact me as well. But yeah, thanks. Thank you for that. And yes, once again, for the phone numbers and resources that are based in the community, they will be sent at the end of this workshop. In terms of resources for long-term care, that is once again out of the scope of this project, but then I would say for some of the resources we do have listed there, they would be potentially able to answer some of those questions too, such as the Senior Safety Hotline.
So thank you, Joanne Murphy, Tara Seney, Sharon Tan. Thank you to the three of you, and also to everyone who joined today as participants for all your great questions. I do just want to quickly mention that all of our webinars are free to join, and also that our presenters, everyone who presented today and always for our webinars, are volunteers, and they are donating their time and their expertise to inspire us all through these very important conversations. So in order to help us continue to organize and present these fantastic webinars, we do hope you will consider supporting RTOERO Foundation with a donation. If you'd like to support the foundation, you can reach us by phone, by mail. The information's on screen right now. You can, of course, visit us online to learn more about our work and hopefully support us with a donation. Thank you for considering. I also want to mention to everyone in attendance that a very short survey will pop up on your screen when this webinar is done, and that's just to get some feedback on today's webinar. Your feedback is very important to us to continually optimize and improve on this webinar series. So please take 1 minute to let us know how we did today. Joanne, Tara, Sharon, anything you'd like to add before we finish?
I would like to say thank you to all the participants. I know that we only had an hour, so we tried to do as much as we could during this hour. And of course, you're always free to send in questions to any one of us, and we will try to answer them. It's been an interesting webinar, and one that impacts on all of our lives at some point. So I thank you for your interest and your participation today. And I especially thank my partner, Tara, and Sharon for all of the work that she has done to get this webinar information out to so many people. So Tara and Sharon, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do want to mention, I hope this can really start igniting some conversations within your own networks, and like what our title of this workshop suggests, initiating the dialogue on dementia and elder abuse. So thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you everyone, and stay safe.
Thanks, Joanne and Tara and Sharon. This concludes today's webinar. The foundation does have 5 more webinars planned for 2022, so please keep an eye out for those registration emails for those upcoming events. Thank you again, everyone. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you at our next webinar.